Okay, awesome. So you guys can drop things in the chat as well. That is an option. I'll look at those as far as questions at the end. But let me just jump in, and again, this is meant to be as valuable as I can give you in this hour that we have together. I have some things that have worked, and I have some failures that didn't work. And so what I'm trying to share with you is just my lessons, my scars, and some of the things that we have figured out that have really helped us. So I did this keynote last, I think, couple 2 months ago, maybe, and it was how to have your best year ever. And so I thought I would just start with talking about that because it's the right time to do it, to start planning for 2024, to start thinking about kind of what you want to change and improve. And this is actually the exact time that I start doing this. So I'm going to walk you through kind of what we do to kind of plan 2024 and get started. Right. So I love that little kid because he reminds me of like when we were younger and we had all these dreams and these aspirations, and when we started this business, we had these dreams and aspirations of what we wanted to do. And sometimes we let the business punch us, kick us, and take our dreams and aspirations away. And so what I would encourage you to think about and literally, get a yellow legal pad out and say, what's your dream? Like what do you want to accomplish? What do you want to do? What have you given up on that you said you wanted to do before? Thinking about your business, like what is your North Star? Like what are you trying to accomplish? And I'll tell you, like, I'm going to share with you some of the things that I like. My North Star is to get autonomy and to build an amazing team so that like the work doesn't all fall on on a small group of people, right? So like what are you chasing? What is your next championship? I'm out there chasing something else, and I'm helping my team to be chasing something else. So like what are you thinking about what you're trying to achieve and where you're trying to go? So and I will tell you again, just as a reminder, like when I started, it was very humble. Like I was struggling. It was very hard. The first 5 years of this business, there's so many scars. So those of you that are in your first 5 years of this business, it's very hard. It's supposed to be hard, but it does get better. And I would just say, don't compare my middle to kind of where you are in the beginning. There's a lot of things I'm going to share with you that I didn't do any of this nonsense, like, when I was first starting out, right? So a lot of things I'm going to share with you today are just every year we get better. And part of it is because we do this planning process. And I would just encourage you to sit down and figure out what you want to do and what you want your business to be and where you're trying to take it. But I also will give you some hope, right? Like, that tomorrow is going to be better than today. And that's just the reality of the business that we're in. We're going to have more relationships. We're going to be better. Our teams are going to be better. You're going to have some renewals. You're going to have some more cross-sell opportunities. The current clients become more relationships and send you referrals. So the business does get better every year. Those of you that have been around a while, I know a lot of you in here have. It does get better, and we are in one of the hardest markets that I've ever seen. But it is where people will say, "Well, how's the market going?" I'm like, "Well, we're still in hell, but it's a little less hot now, so things are starting to cool off." But it's still going to be a little while. And I spent some time just like personally figuring out like what do I want for my family mission. And I would just encourage you to think about like the five most important people in your life and put a mission together with them, right? So like for my son, for example, he loves the NBA, and we're going to go to every NBA arena over the next 10 years. So we've got a mission that him and I are on together. I've asked like my parents and my in-laws, what's the bucket list trip that you want to go on? And then we're going to plan it together. So thinking about like, I'm in a constant pursuit of memories, and this business allows us to do that. And that's kind of my why. So we had a 10-year goal to buy a second home in Park City, and we did that about 3 years ago. We invite all of our family and loved ones and friends there, and it's just like that was my mission. I was doing that for myself personally, and then for the business, I, we're always chasing something. So when I first started, I was like, I wanted to be I think there was like 6 or 7 offices. I don't even remember how many there were when I first started, but I was like, I want to be number one. And then I was like, well, I want to have $1 million book of business. And then I wanted a $5 million book of business, and then a 10 million, and then a 20 million. And now we're trying to get to 50 million. And that's kind of the goal. We put this goal together, I think 3 years ago, and which was to get to 20,000 clients, and that premium size. And the reason why is that helps me to do what I want to do in the community. It helps me to do things for my team that I really want to do, and to provide them benefits. So that was the size that we were shooting for. Now, of course, we're going to hit that in like 3.5 years, luckily, because of rate increases, mostly a lot faster than we thought. But my team knows what happens for them when we get there. So we're chasing this mission together. And so I think it's important to kind of say, okay, what are you out there chasing, and give your team something out there in the future to think about, and instead it's almost controlling the narrative a little bit about what's going on in your business, because there's a lot of noise. There's a lot of like, oh, this sucks and this is bad. But you've got to get out in front of it and control kind of that narrative. So we do this annual planning process, and these are the questions that we ask. And we do it in a type form, but we actually sent it out on Monday this week to our entire team, and we actually scheduled time for them to complete these questions so that we can figure out what's going on in their mind. And then we also have a date, November 30th, where the leaders of the office, there's 3 of us, are going to sit in a room for 9 hours, and we're going to analyze a bunch of things. But this is one piece of it, is what is going on in the minds of our team. And what are you disappointed in? Is there anything bothering you a little bit right now? Do you need any resources? Do you have everything you possibly need to be successful? What are some of your goals that you're trying to achieve? What's in our blind spot? What am I not seeing? So we're collecting this data so that we can sit down in a room and realign, reassign, and improve the business. And I want to improve it from their perspective. So this is just one segment of what we do with the team to kind of, find out again what's going on in their minds. We also do a SWOT analysis. What are our strengths, our weaknesses, our opportunities, and threats? Who are our competitors right now? Who are the top 5 competitors that we're competing with? What are they offering? What are they doing that's different? Where are we weak? Where can we improve? And then we review the current year. So we look at, where did we win this year? What were some of the lessons that we learned? What were our results? So we'll run an AMS sales report. We'll pull the data from Power BI. We'll look at which carriers we're writing with. We'll look at the agency, at each agent as a business on their own. Are they cross-selling? Which carriers are they writing with? Are they not writing flood for some reason? So we're literally analyzing kind of each individual team member, because we're setting ourselves up to do those annual reviews with them. So it's those questions we're asking, and then we're analyzing the data and looking at what they are doing and how they are doing it. And then we're looking at, what should we do more of, less of? What can we start doing? What should we remove? And I think one of the main ones that's really helped us is we say, what are the pain points? Like, what is the struggle or things that we're struggling with right now? And then we brainstorm how to solve them and what are some solutions that we can come. One of the things that we've struggled with over the last couple of years, and we've done a bunch of things, is to manage the overwhelm. like the staff just being overwhelmed by more work being dumped on them, things being harder, carriers having millions of underwriting reviews, clients being upset all the time. So we've been brainstorming and trying to solve those kind of issues together, but it starts with identifying what those issues are. And then we talk about, what is our theme going to be for the year? We always have a theme every year. It's, this year was growth personally and professionally. And so we did a bunch of things to help them grow. We look at what are our behaviors or what are our standards? How are we going to increase them? How do we make it easier to do business with us? We've done a bunch of things in that regard, and I'll share some of those with you. How do we hold people accountable more? I'm going to share with you how we do that a little bit later. What do we want to be known for? And then I'm going to share with you kind of some of the meetings that we do and how those are structured. But during this annual planning process, we figure out, like, from those pain points or from things that we want to solve, we do a leadership meeting once a month, and we do a training once a month with our team. And I strongly encourage those two things to happen, because it used to be that we would do this annual planning process, and this is probably only like 4 or 5 years ago, and we would do all this stuff only once a year, and it just wasn't getting it done. Now, the way that we move the business forward every single month, because we are planning to improve something, we do a leadership meeting, then we build the training for it, and then we have training with the staff, and we've moved so many things so much faster by following that metric. So we do plan out what we're going to train on for the whole year going forward. And then we look at our goals. We kind of set some penciled goals at this year-end meeting of kind of where we are. And again, you're only competing with yourself. Like, where were you last year? And then breaking that down and looking at certain metrics that you want to kind of improve, and then looking at it from a quarterly basis to a monthly basis, and then breaking it down into each individual person. So we don't set the goal for them, but we get them all in a room in the team, and we go, hey, this is what you did last year. This is where your results are. You're better now. You're trained. You've got more relationships. What do you think you can do in 2024? And we get their buy-in on how many relationships they can create, what sales volume they can do, and how they're going to grow and change. And then we set the final plan for the new year. So it's based on historical data, and it's based on them taking that buy-in. So we pencil it in, so we have somewhere to start and to frame it, but we don't decide until they all get in the room. So here's some of the things that we tackled this year in 2023. We did a full CRM review, which we've been on the CRM for about 3 or 4 years now, and we just kind of went through it all and looked at all the verbiage and what we were doing. We started video days. I really feel strongly about this being a really cool tactic. We bring in a videographer 3 times, and we scheduled a full day for them to create some videos for us. And it's not something that is a skill set of mine. It's not a strength. It's not a strength for anyone on my team, but we're getting better at it. So, for example, we created a video of how to get to our office. So if somebody books an appointment with us, it's very clear, simple. It shows them the outside, where do they walk in, the whole thing. We showed them, and there's another video I'll show you that shows kind of some of the things that we did. But we also created videos of what's going on in the market right now. Why are rates going up? We did videos of what happens after the sale when we write business with us, because our model is very different. So how do they get service later and all that? So we explain that to them. We also created a video of how we're different. So when we start working with a new client, they see kind of how we are different. So the video days was huge. We have a different dashboard for results. We looked at incentives. We looked at our sales process, and you have to have one to start, but we looked at it and refined it. We did secret shops, which I'm going to show you about later. That was a huge win. We changed the way we followed up on quotes, and we got everyone organized on exactly how we do it, step 1, 2, 3, and we got it integrated with the CRM, and we made sure that every time we were doing it the exact same way. And whether it's a cross-sell follow-up or a new business follow-up, there is a process. And then we looked at each role, responsibility, kind of who does what. So we have these meetings once a month, but we structure them once a year. And these are some of the training sessions that we did. We do a state of the agency in the beginning. We do responses to our most common requests. So we get the same 10 requests from everybody. Why does my coverage A value not match my purchase price, whatever. Like, have these requests documented and build them into a template form so that it's very easy to answer those correctly and quickly with those requests. We did training sessions on managing the overwhelm. We review what markets are available. We review like the quoting process, how people are winning. We reviewed all the products. Like, we went deep on flood, umbrella, auto, and life. We had a meeting where we just said, bring me all your problems. Like, bring your laptop, show me what email or customer response you're struggling with. Show me your suspenses that you're struggling with and don't know how to solve it, and let's triage it together. We did a training on time management. So those are kind of some of the things that we did this last year. And then I told you, like, our process is growth this year. And so, with our team, we do these life assessments. We actually had it yesterday. We did a one sheet presentation, which is we take their goals and we put it on one sheet of paper. And this is just then for their own personal growth. Because again, I don't know how long people are going to stay with us, but what I do know is that when they come on board with us, they're going to have growth and they're going to be better by being on board. I used to think everyone was going to stay with us forever, but I know that's not the reality. But what I want is that when they come, they get growth, and I've intentionally implanted that in the operation. So we had an expert, somebody come in and help with this one sheet, which is kind of all their goals and aspirations on one sheet of paper. It's their net worth, their health, where they are accurately, what their bucket list are. It's kind of a cool process. And then we have an annual training again on growth. We have an expert coming in next month to do personality assessments, profile testing, DISC analysis, emotional intelligence, and like run all these tests on all of our team. And she's going to kind of explain kind of different personalities, how they interact with, how to better interact with each other, and then also how to interact with our clients. Like when we're struggling with something or the client's upset, how do we read what kind of personality that is and handle that the correct way? So that's kind of how we're focusing on kind of that growth aspect of it. So we do those meetings. We do the annual meeting. We do those individual meetings with the entire team. We reset the agenda of how we're going to operate in this current year. And then we put together a video to kind of capture everything that we're doing. And again, guys, this is a lot. I would not, I would do like one or two things, like think about these as I'm telling you this is like, this is something that resonates with me. I would start with like two or three things. I would not try to do all of this, but this is kind of our annual video. So it kind of has our mission. So it starts with that. So we know kind of where we're trying to go and what we're trying to do. These are our values of kind of what our team came up with as our values. And then here's our theme. And then we've got our 5-year plan. We spent this last year building out all these processes and documenting exactly how we do everything that we do. And we offered them up to agents to make a donation to charity. And we're doing these extreme makeovers of nonprofits, which is really kind of cool and exciting that we are in a business where we can kind of give back, which is really neat. And we put our goals in, like, what are we going to do for Google reviews? What are our sales goal going to be for the office? We promoted somebody last year. Who are we looking to add to our team? What are we looking for? We created online appointment options for clients. And then when they do an appointment, this is what I was telling you about, is how do you get to our office? And then this is a video that happens when clients say they're going to do business with us or we are in the quote process. So there's a longer video, and then this is everybody's individual goals for the office. So when we do their one-on-ones, we sit them down and they define them and we put it all in this video. And so like we get to Joe in our meeting and we go, hey, Joe, how are you doing on the water? Right. And so it's accountability for them on what they said they were going to try to accomplish. And so each team member has these certain goals that they're trying to achieve, and then we're trying to help them achieve it. So again, we play this at our monthly meeting, and it's again how we start the meeting. We only play it once a month, and we just pause it on each person and we go, how are you doing with your goals? Where are you at now? You've accomplished that. One in yellow is their first main goal. We learned that working on one goal at a time is the way. And so once they accomplish that one goal, then they move on to the next one. And then one of our other themes is we have fun under pressure. So we want to make it an environment where we are creating fun and we are making sure that people are having a good time. And then we're constantly trying to put things out there as a big stretch goal. And last year we did, if they created 100 new relationships, we would take them all to Puerto Rico. And that's what we did in January of this year. So it's just, again, putting things out there. You can do it on a much smaller scale. Again, that we've never done something like that up until, we've been doing this for 18 years. So that's just kind of how we put all those things together. Now on the people side, of course, like that is what solves all the problems, right? So that's what I put a lot of my effort and focus in, is on how to create an environment for the people that that makes sense. So it starts with kind of our organizational chart, like how do we structure our office and I want to explain kind of how we do that. And again, over time, this has all changed. But each year we kind of look at, okay, and we also have, visions of like how this organizational chart will look over the years. But this is kind of where it is now. So Chris and I kind of run the office together. He's in charge of, kind of the sales team, the relations team, and the clients situation. And then we promoted Shelby in the middle to operations manager. So she's in charge of our people, process, and training. And she's also in charge of our A team, which I'm going to explain kind of how we structure that that process. Because a lot of you guys have asked about VAs and administrative roles. So, and then we have, 8 people on the sales team, kind of the way we're structured now. So one of the things that I would just encourage you to do is, whether you're a one-man shop or you've got a 5-person agency, is to write out all the responsibilities and who's responsible for them, and clearly define. So, because what that does is, as you add people, you're able to tell those folks like what those roles are going to be, what winning looks like for them in their current position. But you need a master list of like all the responsibilities, who's responsible for them, and what they do. And so if, like Shelby is going to go out on maternity leave, we need to know every responsibility she has, because somebody else is going to have to handle that when she's gone. So it's really nice to have it all on one sheet that we align. And this is one of the things that we do at the annual meeting is we change it up every year. We usually do it at the end of the year, and we give everybody these little responsibilities to make the office flow and be smoother. So we've thought about everything, like who's supposed to clean out the fridge on a Friday is something we've thought about. So we have all that stuff documented and written out. And then we take it to a 1-page business plan. And so everybody has this 1-page business plan that says, what does winning look like for your specific role? What is our focus for the office? What are your responsibilities? What are your extra responsibilities? What are your KPIs? What is your weekly and quarterly expectations, and all your salaries and benefits, all on 1 page? To be clear is to be kind. Unclear is unkind. So people want to do well. We just have to give them the recipe for what success looks like in the position that they are holding. And so having this document really just kind of sets everything. And so every year we modify this, adjust it, and then we set it in stone for 2024. And that's part of the process that we go through during that annual session, is we get this 1-page business plan for everybody currently, exactly what they're responsible for, so they know kind of what winning looks like. So on the communication side, a lot of you guys asked, okay, what kind of meetings are you running? How are you running them? I talked a little bit about it. Let me just go a little bit deeper on that. So we do this annual retreat. I'm going to spend a little bit more time on this weekly meeting, because I think that's really critical. That's like the heartbeat of how we run our business. We do it every Monday morning at 10:30 to 11:02. We also have a process where we check in with team members. So we have a leadership meeting on, it's the first Wednesday of every month. And then we decide as a leadership team who each person is going to check into. And they'll go and do just a walk around, a coffee meeting, a lunch meeting with somebody, so that we make sure that somebody and the leadership team meets with everybody once a quarter at least. And then we talked about, we do a monthly training, and then we do these business plan sessions at the beginning of the year. Oops, sorry. Okay, so here's our weekly meeting structure. At the end, I'm actually going to end with this because I think it's probably one of the most important things. I'm going to come back to kind of where we get the results in, how do we structure it, and because I think it's probably one of the most important things. And if I was going to pick one thing, this is probably one of the ones that I would do to get your office organized and to create some clarity for everyone and to get some uniformity and really help move your business forward. So I'm going to come back to that. I'm going to end with it, and then we'll do Q&A. So there's just a couple of ideas of things that have won for us. We started doing secret shops, and we do right now 2 a month. I'm happy to share with you the vendor. Trisha on our team did a lot of research and found somebody to do these for us. You know, if your business is struggling a little bit, or you're down, or you're not hitting the sales goals that you want to, I will point to, it's the experience you're providing. It's, what happens when somebody does an online lead, and somebody takes 2 hours to get back with them. It's a cold lead by then. So if you don't have a good process and system for when somebody calls your office, what if they called at 5:10? What happens? What if they call at 8:30 in the morning? What happens? How long does it take for them to follow up and get back? And so we spent all this time over the last 18 years trying to make sure we train people well. We put them through 12 weeks of training. But what I didn't realize is what you hold them accountable to it won't work until you do that, because it brings it all together. Because I thought that they were doing and saying all the things that we had taught them, but they weren't. And it's just human nature. People are going to go to the path of least resistance. They're going to go to what feels right for them. But we figured out there's like 6 or 7 things that are really important that we want to make sure are happening every time. This is inexpensive to have somebody do it. I think Trisha can correct me, but I think it's like $150 a month or $80 a secret shop. And we created all the questions that they ask, and they call 2 times in a month. And I know that everyone on my team is cross-selling and offering auto and flood because we check. I know that they're building rapport. I know that they're doing 3 follow-up steps in the quote follow-up to follow the process that we created on how many times they're following up. I know how likely they are to refer or do business with us based on the experience they had. And we validate it and we checklist it and we go, did they do these 6 things? And if we do that, we pay them a bonus for it so that they actually get paid on it the same that they would have gotten paid if they had written it, essentially. So it's getting everyone on the same team. It's a very inexpensive way to make sure that there's validation to what your experience is like. This is also a really cool thing that we did this year, which is we created a team yearbook. So I realized that like people that started, in the last couple of years, we had 5 new people come on and they don't know the history. They don't know the story. And they're like, what does Billy do? And they don't know that, for 5 years, all I did was put my head down and write as much business as I possibly could and developed all these relationships. Where did we start from the humble beginnings? I don't know, you guys don't know the story, but I worked for 6 months for free for David before I opened my agency. I just wrote his business to learn it. And it was valuable, but that was a lot of time to invest, right? So people don't know the story. So I tell the agency story, and then each person has their own story about their family and who they are. Because when somebody comes on board, you want to make a personal connection with them, because if they feel personally connected to your business, they're going to stay. And so those relationships takes a long time to develop sometimes. So I like this, this yearbook. So we do it as their orientation and really kind of explain to who the people are, because they spend a lot of time with them, but what's their family like and what do they care about? And so that was a really cool little win. And, we just asked them to write us a paragraph and we put a couple of pictures in it, and it's something that we kind of maintain and keep. All right, so I'm going to talk about VAs for a minute. I think we've really mastered this. And again, you've got to kind of think about it like for your own business. Now we used to call it the admin team, and we changed it to the A team. Most of my team is too young; they don't know who the hell the A team is, but which is to me such a pity. But the I just like the name A team better than the administrative team, essentially. So they're awesome, and that's kind of how we've named them. So we've got 5 folks on that team now. If you're just starting out, you can start out with one and look at, kind of the different ways to do it. But essentially, what we've done over time is pulled almost all of the administrative tasks off of our sales agents. And those sales agents have to validate that. They cannot just, they can't, like, they don't get all that support right away. They have to earn their way through it. But most of our team now has earned their way all the way through it. So now, and this admin team is not, they're not all VAs. 3 of them are virtual assistants, and 2 of them are individual direct team members. They just play different roles. And so when we first started with this, Brightway has 3 approved vendors. I think it's Agency VA. I think there might be 4: InsureBoss, Eureka, and CoverDesk. So all of them are good. They did a good job of kind of finding really good vendors, but they're all very different. Some of them, are based out of, like, Agency VA has people based out of Puerto Rico and Philippines and a bunch of different folks. Our first one was based out of Puerto Rico, and he was a home run. We've promoted him like twice, and now he's kind of a team lead for this admin team. And then we've got 2 from Eureka that are out of El Salvador, and they're excellent, very, very, very knowledgeable. I would just say that before I jump into the VA thing, I would make sure that you have like 4 or 5 repeatable process tasks that need to be done and that you can pull off of your team. I've seen a lot of people doing this wrong. Like, and if you get a good person, it probably doesn't matter. But you still have to develop and train and teach these folks and make sure that they're doing things correctly. So we have now on our team 2 folks that do the onboarding intake sheet of new clients as they come on board. So and those are, if they answer the phone, everyone kind of does it, but there's 2 folks that kind of set up new processes. So if we get an email lead or a web lead or whatever, those folks are onboarding them, putting them in the system, putting them in the raters, and then the agent is taking it from there, but they're already in AMS. They've already validated that they're not an existing Brightway customer. They've looked at all of that. They set it up in the rater, and then the agent gets an email that says they need to work on this, which means complete the quote and send it out. And the agent then does the quote, and they do 3 follow-up touches in 24 hours. That's their requirement. And then everything else after that is automated. So they do a phone call, a text, and an email all in the first 24 hours. And then the rest of the stuff that we do is automated. So they put it into an automation campaign, and then they don't have to follow up anymore. But then the A team also does what we call post bind. And I will include our checklist for the post bind that we do in the email follow-up. But essentially, it's the agent fills out, is it new business, renewal business? What cross-sell campaign do we need to write? What needs to be set up in the suspense? What needs to be done, uploaded, everything. And then that post bind person, which is, we have 2 VAs that we split the office in half, and they do AMS, they do DocuSign, and they do our CRM management. And then they also get the application signed back, and they attach those, and they update the new business check suspense. And then we have another A team person that does all the new business checks for the office. So they check money and applications. It's a separate person that does all of that. And so that's kind of how we built the team. So they also do all the faxing, and then they also do a lot of the attachments for the agents now. So like if they send out a quote, they'll copy that person, blind carbon copy it, and then they'll attach that quote to AMS, for an example. Or if a 4-point inspection comes in, their person will then attach that to their file. So, if you have questions on that, let me know. You can put it in the chat, but that's kind of how we structure our virtual assistants and our A team, and this is kind of how we develop new people coming forward as well. this is something that, again, was a huge win for us, is we built a pathway for agents to come on board with us. So they either come on board with us as a client concierge, or they come on board with us as an A-team member. So a client concierge is more, they answer the phones, they help, they greet clients when they come in, almost like a receptionist type of a role, but also they do that intake stuff. And it's a way for them to kind of learn the business and start in the beginning. And then, or they could be on the admin team. And, some people want to stay kind of admin, and some people want to like move down the pipeline to be a sales agent. And we now made it about a 2-year track for someone to become an agent for us. So we don't hire any more sales agents anymore. This is a much more profitable way to do it. And it also makes your people better. Because like if they're a client concierge, for example, like we're telling them, hey, the first thing we need you to learn is how to do auto quoting. And so they start doing auto quoting, and they do a little bit of that. And they do flood quoting. So every homeowner's quote that comes in and with their client concierge, they also do the flood. So they become good at learning how to do flood and auto quoting, for an example. And then if they want to move into like the sales role, then we can put them into what we call a junior producer role. And that junior producer, they work underneath an experienced agent, and they start doing the same thing. They'll do auto quoting for like 3 months. It's all they'll do. And they become a ninja at it. They know every single carrier. They know how to adjust it, how to do the rates. They become really, really good at it. And then the next 3 months we have them do flood. And then the next 3 months we have them do home. And then we have them do the other ancillary products like boats and RVs and motorcycles. And it's like a year-long process. They become a ninja at it. And we pay them a percentage, but not the same as we would pay a sales agent, because they're not developing the leads and doing any of that. And if they want to become an agent, they also need to know how to bind everything. So we walk them through that process. So when they learn something, they become an expert on it. We move them to something else. And so they're helping the business, but they are then going down that chain of like, then they do this. So they learn how to bind all the companies. And if they want to stay as a junior producer, it can be a good career for them. We've made it to where they will earn money. We pay them a little bit more salary. And if they don't, there's two or three things they have to do to become an agent for us. They have to pass the secret shops. So I know that they're cross-selling, they're building rapport. They also have to develop relationships. So if they don't develop 5 relationships, they cannot become an agent, because my agents, I need them developing relationships. That's part of their main role. If they can't do that, then they can be a junior producer, but they cannot be an agent. And so we've put them through that process. And then when they become an agent, then they have 4 levels of compensation that they earn their way through. So there's essentially 8 positions, which I made them all up. There really is only 2. But I lit a path for people that come on board, because no one gets into our business on purpose. It's always on accident. So how do we show them what they can do in this business and how they can move through it and become successful? And every time they get to a different pathway, then they get a bump in their salary, or they get a bump in their commission, or they get a bump in the responsibilities of like that admin A-team does for them. So it's really just kind of playing that plan out. And if I was starting over again, I would do this from the very beginning. So if it was me and one other person, I would hire somebody to be a client concierge, and I would develop them through those roles. I'd make them a junior producer. And then if they were good, I would make them an agent. If they could build relationships and pass the secret shops, then they would become an agent. But if not, what you find is when your business gets bigger, you need a lot of people just to bind business, because like you've already got the relationships, or it might be a rewrite that needs to be done. You can't pay everybody a new business commission when you're not getting the revenue from those rewrite policies or those other things. So just wanted to make sure that you kind of understood kind of how that process kind of looks. So I did tell you a little bit, we're doing these extreme makeovers. You can go to billy-wagner.com. A lot of you guys on this call have supported it and helped, but we're doing nonprofit makeovers, almost like Marcus Lemonis does with the profit. We're doing the non-for-profit, which has been super rewarding. You can see the video of the first one we did. It's really, really cool. And we built now a process on how we can help these nonprofits, which is kind of one of my passions that we're doing now. I'm not going to show you that video. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing, stop presenting. And then I'm going to show you our, and I'm going to present again and show you our weekly meeting thing. And then I'm going to leave the rest of the time for questions. We're kind of right on time, I think, of what I wanted to accomplish. So let me share this. Okay. So this is basically a giant Excel spreadsheet, right? And so we have this meeting. We've been doing this for like 3 or 4 years now. And again, it's the heartbeat of what runs our business and runs our operation. But essentially, we've done this at different times. But the best time for us, I wanted to do it at the beginning of the week, and we used to start it at 9 o'clock, and that was just driving the agents crazy because they would get voicemails and emails, and they were just behind. So we started at 10:30. And we go in the conference room and we set up a Teams meeting just like this for the virtual folks. And we start out with what's our personal best. And I start out with every meeting I ever run, I do a personal best, even with the agency council meeting that I run on the boards that I'm on. What is the personal best thing that's happened? So I'm getting some background if somebody can mute themselves. But what is the personal best thing that happened in their life, so that it's almost like the cooler talk. We get it out of the way early. We find out what's going on in people's lives, and it can be personal or professional, just has to be positive. And that's how we start our meeting. So we go round robin and we just check in with everybody. How's everybody doing? Everybody okay? And it's just really just kind of a, I want to know that, their kids won their soccer game on Saturday. That's important to me. So we spend some time on that. Then we look at a scorecard. So everybody has a scorecard. And so like this is Chris, for example. So he's responsible for having a meeting once a week. Did he have the meeting or did he not? That's where the center of influence, a coffee meeting every week. And then we track how many suspenses does he have on Friday, which means is he caught up or is he not caught up? So the goal is for that to be 0. If it's 0, then I know that he is caught up on what he's got going on his plate. So we ask that their emails and their suspenses get to 0 on Friday. That's kind of our goal as an office. It doesn't always happen, but that's the goal. And if it doesn't happen, then we know that that person is behind and then they're not on top of their stuff. And then we look at how many suspenses they have for the following week. So we know kind of what's in their pipeline, what's coming up for them, what are they facing this week. If it's a certain number, we are like, this person is pretty heavy, and we modify what they do. We might say, hey, for Monday and Tuesday, I don't want you on the phones. I want you to clear up your suspenses and get yourself caught up, because if you're not proactive on that stuff, then it becomes all reactive, and then it becomes a bunch of fires that you have to put out. Trisha runs sales out of AMS to put every Monday morning. And so she'll put in the date. So the only thing the agents have to put in is those first 3 lines. If they're a sales agent, did they have a meeting? What were their suspenses on Friday? And what were their suspenses next week? One of the things that we do is we have one of the agents, like Chris has everyone's suspenses in his inbox. So he knows exactly how everyone has. And he just sorts it that way so we can see, but we know where everyone is, what kind of workload they have. And then she enters in the policy sold and the policy's premium. So the agents don't do that. We'd run it for them. And then she also, this is something that was a big win that Trisha worked on a ton, which is having RingCentral run a report every week and have an automated report come in. We have it actually show up daily in my inbox, how many calls were answered that day. And then we have a weekly email where how many calls that person made each week. So part of it is managing kind of their workload. What are they doing? One of the metrics we know that is very important is how many phone calls they're answering. So we're paying attention to that. So that report gets run automated now. We used to run it manually, and that gets entered in there. So everyone has a goal of how many calls they're supposed to take, and if they're below that goal, then they know that that's a problem. So you build in this accountability to each other by saying, okay, this is what I need you to accomplish. So everyone has a sales goal, they have a policy sold goal, and they also have a phone answering goal. Most of our team, we want them to answer 60 calls minimum per week. There's some people that have extra responsibilities, like Chris doesn't have any phone metrics, and neither does Shelby as our operations manager. She only has to answer 25. So it depends on what their role is. And some of the VAs don't answer the phone at all, so they don't have a goal for the number of phone calls. So when we get to this part in our meeting, I don't have them go through their numbers. I don't want to spend a bunch of time doing that. The scoreboard doesn't lie. It says whether you win or you don't win. What I tell them is I don't want you to be last in anything for 2 weeks in a row. So if you're down in sales, don't be down in sales next week. If you're low on phones, don't be low on phones the following week. But it's built-in accountability for them. And what they do is they come to the meeting with either one thing they're proud of or one thing that they're working on to try to improve. Or if they have a partner meeting, they talk about that meeting. So those are the three options. They pick one. I don't care which one they do. So they might say, hey, I had a great meeting with John at Bank of America. We had a great relationship and he's going to start sending us business. Or, hey, my phones were down this week and next week I'm going to be better. That kind of thing. So they pick what it is and we go one by one through each team member. So we go one by one through the personal best and then one by one through the scorecard. And again, the accountability is kind of built in because there's not a whole lot of things we're tracking here. There's a million things we could track. For me, our focus is on building relationships. And I want to make sure that the workload is being shared and that people are pulling their weight, essentially. So this is how that gets done. And then we take a look at the calendar. So we look at, we click this button and it's linked to our office calendar. So we know kind of like we had an event last night for 4 or 5 of us. We had a real estate event. So 4 or 5 of us went to that. If we have a carrier meeting coming in, if agents are going to be out of the office, we do half day Fridays, 6 months of the year in the slower time. So who's got their half day Friday? So we just look at the calendar and we make sure everybody knows when they're going to be out and, kind of how we need to make sure we're covering each other. And then we have a quick, 2 minutes. Anybody have any shout outs or kudos to recognize anyone that was doing really well in the team? We also have a channel in Teams that does that as well. But this is just a way for us to just make sure that we're recognizing people that do a great job. And then the last thing we do is what we call opportunities. So what you don't want is people in the office complaining about things that they can't control. I said this in my book, it's like throwing up and you feel a little bit better, but you just made everybody else sick. We don't want that. So the way we do it is they put it on the agenda, and the agenda is things that we need to discuss or work through, or it's a challenge that we're having. We'll put it on this agenda and we spend the majority of our time on this. So it might be kind of a carrier update to let everyone know that this certain carrier is now open 5 years and newer on homes or whatever. Or it might just be, we're struggling with maybe the way we're taking messages in the office and we're not all doing it consistently. So then we remind everybody, hey, we have a process for this, guys. We have an email template that we use, and make sure that when you're taking the phone call, you do this, this, and this. And we send out that email after the call and it reminds everybody kind of what needs to be done. So sometimes there's like individual issues that are going on in the office and they're little pain points and they're bothering people a little bit. And most of the time it comes down to, is it a people issue? Is it a process issue? Is it a training issue? And if you can identify what those are and work on them together, then you can actually accomplish a lot more. And what we find is we communicate better. There's not things that are like, oh, I didn't know that, or that gets missed. And when somebody learns something, we don't all have to learn the hard way. Like, you put it on the agenda. So everyone puts it on the agenda. And if you put something on the agenda, then you're responsible for it. So you would basically introduce it. And then you would then explain what the issue is and make sure everybody understands. And then we brainstorm kind of how to solve it. And sometimes we call it a brush fire. We have to move it to like a leadership meeting to solve it. And we're not going to solve it in 15 minutes, essentially. So that's what we do. We put it on our leadership meeting and then tackle it a different way. But it also has all of our annual goals on it. It has our 90-day goals. So what we're trying to do annually for the year, and then what we're trying to do every 90 days. So it gets everybody on the same page as kind of what we're trying to accomplish. It has all of our training that we're going to do, like what's mapped out for our training for the year. It has kind of our schedule, and we don't do a lunch schedule for the sales team, but for the admin team we do, so that they're not gone at the same time, all at the same time. So this Excel sheet is massive. I mean, it has all of our results from a quarterly perspective. You don't have to do all of that. What I would just do is just do this structure of like, I'm going to do a 30-minute check-in with everybody. I'm going to deal with our opportunities that we have, and I'm going to have a scorecard of what the results are and put them all in one place. All right, so I have, I'll stay on 15, 20 minutes extra past 11 if you guys have questions. Because I think the best part of this is really just you guys have stuff that you're struggling with or it's on your mind, and it doesn't even have to be what we talked about. It's whatever I can do to add as much value or help you. That's the cool thing about this organization, is that like you don't have to start at the bottom of the mountain, but we all have to kind of try to keep trying to help each other in different ways, because like, again, just like with my team, I don't want like everyone to struggle through the same thing. Like, you know, there's constantly challenges, and that what I think is really important is that you build a system to address those challenges. And that's kind of what I wanted to show you today, is that there can be a process for doing that. All right, so I'm gonna look in the chat to see. Okay. I love that. I pity the fool who doesn't know the A team. Is it hard? Yeah. So it's a good point, Megan. Like, finding people is tough. That's why I built a process around it. We've got 21 steps. We're constantly looking for people. We never say that we're not hiring. We're always hiring. And it's funny because we had a leadership meeting last week on Wednesday, and we were like, man, I feel like we're in a really good place. We're overstaffed, first time ever. I feel like no one's really extremely overwhelmed. And then the next morning I had to fire somebody. So it's like, and then it's like, well, for that half a day, we were in such good shape. But that's just kind of the way the business works. You keep getting punched in the face. You don't expect it. We didn't expect it the day before, and it just happened, right? So I would just encourage you to look, land, air, and sea for people, constantly looking for people with great personalities, whether it be in a coffee shop that you walked into or a restaurant with a server. We have great experience with servers, great experience with teachers. We're constantly looking for people. We're constantly putting them on our bench and building our pipeline. And we're not asking them to learn a bunch of stuff, and I don't want them to have experience. I don't care if they have experience. What I want is a great personality that fits with our culture. And that's why we have 21 steps, because we want to make sure that they do. We have relationships with like centers of influence, like we send a letter out to people that like create a list of like 20 people that you know are very well networked, that know a bunch of people, and send that email out and say, hey, we're looking for somebody. I'd love an introduction from somebody that you know. People is the hardest part of this business. If you solve that, you will be much better off. Okay, so Danny asked, can we have the slides? Yes, we're going to email them to you. What process are you using to automate sales touches? So, the CRM is being worked on. I will tell you that it's going to go out to people first that have nothing, have no CRM. We've been using a CRM for 3 or 4 years. One of the best things we ever did. And the wonderful thing about Brightway right now is they understand what needs to happen and they are working on it. Sometimes they're not able to communicate everything, and they're not able to update you. And that's something they're trying to fix on the communication side. But there's a lot of stuff happening. And when they get this CRM thing, it's going to be a game changer for everyone. We're doing it the same way. So I wouldn't recommend like starting from scratch and doing a CRM if you don't already have one at this point. I would just kind of wait it through and let them kind of roll that out, because we're going to switch ours over when they get it to the point where ours is, which it may be, at the end of 2024 or 2025. I don't know when that's going to be. But I think if there already are some people right now on it testing it, so it's not like a pie in the sky or anything like that. It's something that they are working on. All right, AMS reports are disabled. When I asked, no one knew what they were. Some of the other tools are not available. Not having the tools streamlined can be a little frustrating. So I've learned to get better at Power BI. I would recommend getting a call with your ADC on, that is kind of where they want most of the communications going now. If you have a question, they want you to kind of start there and go there on the reporting side. My ADC was very knowledgeable about the reporting. I was very surprised at how much he knew and what they could do. You can get almost everything you need out of the Power BI. You just need to know how to use them. I think Brightway needs to probably do some training on it, on how to like use that stuff properly. But the reporting is there, and it is pretty good when you figure out how to kind of navigate it and look at it.
Who's your ADC?
Jim Pella. Okay. At one time. Okay, we're asking about. Yes. So like, I don't use a lot of the AMS reports, and I don't know if they're trying to go away from them. They might be. That's why they're spending this much time on the Power BI stuff. We do run the weekly sales report, which is also in Power BI. So I think we could go either way and get the same data that we need. You just have to kind of, work that through. The Ring Central reports, I would reach out to agency support. And I don't, if you guys want to copy exactly what we did, we spent a ton of time. Trisha spent hours and hours trying to figure out how to get what we needed. But essentially, we get a report every day of how many person at 6 o'clock every day we get a report, and it has how many calls everyone answered. I think let me just this is huge too. Like the people that are on the A team, they send us an end of day report. So every day at the end of the day, it's what did they accomplish, and it has a checklist of their responsibilities. So we know at the end of the day, I get like 5 of them at the end of the day, and I know what that person did for that day, what they accomplished, what they have pending, what they need training on. So I know kind of what their pipeline and workload is on. And then we have a Friday meeting. It's just a 15-minute meeting that Shelby runs with our A team that says, what do you have on your plate? So that at the end of the day, Friday, everything gets done. So they help each other and they organize it. But I have these data points in place. And so the Ring Central email comes at the end of the day, and I can just get a real snapshot sense of what's going on in the office. How many phone calls did each person answer? And I might jump into Teams and say, hey, great job, Megan, you answered 22 calls yesterday. That was amazing. So I want to reinforce kind of what I want to happen. And so having that data and those reports are good. So I would reach out to agency support. You can tell them to copy the way that they structured mine. And then we get so I think Trisha has it set up to we get a weekly one at the end of the day, Friday, and then we get a daily one every day, Monday through Friday on, kind of how many calls were answered. And it will tell you inbound and outbound how many calls they made. That's the other thing too, is like when you get the business humming, like we did lose somebody this week. And, in the past, 5 years ago, that would have been detrimental. And I held on to people in the past because I was so worried about the overwhelm that I would dump on my team by letting somebody go. And I put up with poor performance. I don't do that anymore. The person was let go for being late. That seems kind of silly, but that's what it was. There was a high standard and a high performance. But when we let him go, we already knew exactly what he did, what his responsibilities were. We have a checklist that we go through now when we let somebody go. Home office handles most of the stuff with the reporting and all that, but there is things that we need to kind of make sure are done, like the CRM needs to get updated and all that stuff, benefits, all that. But the work is immediately absorbed because we have a system in place where there's backups for everybody. So like no one does a job. The worst number is 1. So like if you only have one person that knows how to do something, that's a problem. So I wasn't as stressed because we have the systems, the process, and we have the training system to develop somebody else. So yeah, we got to hire somebody, and it's not a desperate need, and we're going to be patient. But because I have the standards of what the process are, we have the training built out, and we have the responsibilities clearly defined, it wasn't as big of a punch that it used to be, and it lets me kind of do things correctly. So Scott asked about lender and realtor leads are a little down. Yeah, they are. I will tell you that we had an amazing speaker last night. We did a real estate event last night, and this guy used to report to the president. An incredible mind on real estate, and I mean, I could do a whole half an hour on that, but I'm very bullish on where the real estate market is going in 2020. Basically, the short of it is the interest rates are obviously higher, and they every time before a slight recession they overcorrect, and so that he basically showed all the data that says interest rates are going to go down over the next couple of years. If you put a 6 there instead of an 8, it makes a drastic difference, and all these people that are on the sidelines are going to come rolling back in. He also showed that the supply is at an all-time low. In the last 10 years, we have not been building the amount of houses that we need to. That's going to change. So the supply is way low. So the market is incredibly healthy if the interest rates weren't screwed up. And he said that now there's more, the average age of buying a home is 35 years old. And now, right now, the most amount of 35-year-olds ever in history is right now, the millennials. So it's bigger than what the baby boomers were when they were buying houses. So it is 100% aligned to have a healthy real estate market. There might be some dips and lows, but it 100% is gonna be positive. And there's going to be pockets where the market isn't, but the data was overwhelming that it's something to be positive. And there might be a slight recession, and there's some other things that are going on, but I believe that the real estate market is strong. All right. What does it look like for your staff? Okay, so it's a great question, Steve. So what we did, he asked, what does it look like when we get to the big goal that we're trying to get to? And again, I would make whatever goal it is, I just put it out there like 2 years from now, like, or it might be an annual goal. Like, give them two goals. Like we did like 100 new relationships. Pick whatever you think is important to you, and then what is the sales goal that you guys are trying to achieve, right? So everyone can kind of play a role in that. And I just wanted something. I just my personality, I need something to chase. Like I'm always chasing something. So for me, like when we get to there, it doesn't, I mean, I told you guys it matters, but it doesn't really matter. There'll be a new goal when we get there, but there just needs to be a goal, something that you're trying to get to and chase, right? Um, so how do you get buy-in for that goal? So we basically just shared it with them, at kind of the state of the agency thing we do in January or in December. We just talk to them about it and we go, this is what we're trying to do and this is why. Because we want to do stuff in the community. We want to give back. Where there's some really big goals I have there. And then I told them, we had them create what they wanted to happen. So I said, and it was one of the questions we ask in that survey is like, when we hit a big goal, what do you guys want? And so like the half day Fridays was one of the things that we kind of implemented. But we haven't fully defined it. We're going to finish defining it because we're doing it 2 years faster than I thought we were, to be honest. But it's going to be like, maybe we're going to do 4-day work weeks. Maybe we're going to have receptionists answer the phone instead of them being on the front lines on the phone the whole time. There's going to be a bucket of money that's going to be an employee fund where if they ever have a problem and they need it, then the team votes on who gets it. And it just, it's something there to protect them. We're going to add like every single benefit. We're going to move from a simple IRA to a 401k. So they have a little bit more. We're going to do profit sharing with the 401k. We're going to probably move to where if they're at level 4, they're going to have unlimited time off. So they have to be at level 4 to kind of get there. And there's going to be like financial cash, like salary bumps. So again, I would ask your team, what do they want? And then, when you get to that level, it's gotta make sense, but then you make that happen for them. So what are your thoughts on? Okay, so we already kind of touched on the CRM. That has been a huge game changer just from like the amount of time my staff is spending on stuff. I know there's probably half of you guys have CRMs that are in here. That I think is huge. Just like the quote follow-up or like right now we have, God, if I was doing this when I started the business, I would never have to market again because we have probably 3 or 4,000 people in our lost quoted not sold campaign. So it's bringing in business every single day now that we wouldn't have had before because and it's basically just an X date campaign, essentially like, hey, your rate's going up because they always go up. We'd love to look at it now. We have some new options, and so those are coming in. We found that like on the quote process, those 3 touches in those 3 days, they can do those immediately. Like you can, in our CRM, you can send a templated email, a text, and then they just make a phone call and then the agent's done. So like in a minute, they can do all 3 of their touches and then the system does everything else after that. So, and there's some really cool things you can do once you guys have it set up. But like we have an automated, Steve was talking about it before the slide broadcast, like we do an automated follow-up phone call voicemail 7 days later, which used to be a manual thing that we did on every single client. Now it's all automated. So does it convert as well? Probably not, but it's still one of those touches that are in there. And so once you have the platform, you can build all kinds of automations around it. You can build type forms in there that allow you to collect data. Brandon is a big, I don't know if Brandon's on here, but he's a big proponent of the Canopy Connect, which is a different software. I'm not a shiny object software guy, but I do research a lot and I don't pull the trigger on it unless it makes sense. So we are using a CRM, we're using Canopy Connect, and we're using Slide Broadcast, all 3 of those. And I think Brightway is working on a universal thing with Canopy Connect, so I'd hold off on that, but that's something I would definitely implement at some point. All right, somebody asked about Auto carriers, what are the main ones? Auto carrier, it's a mess. Auto is just an absolute mess. I think it's going to get better, but like the national carriers are just running from it. One thing I will tell you that I kind of stepped away and put other people in charge of kind of the carrier process. I think we need to reevaluate that. I think those of you that have strong relationships with your carriers, it means a lot. Some of you had good relationships and you didn't get your carrier appointments pulled, or you didn't get your new business restrictions stopped. We've got to figure out a way to show up differently with our carriers. And I know that that's going to be a big emphasis for Brightway, and they're doing some really cool things there that I'm sure that they will share, but we've all got to do our own part. We've got to have good relationships with them, and we've got to make sure that we're not telling everyone that they're college degrees when they're not, and that we all have to share in that responsibility of like putting the data in correctly, so that like these carriers don't think that we're doing it all wrong, and then we all get lumped together, that we're and that we all have to own that. It's not like there's some people that are abusing the system in our network, and it's killing all of us. And if we all start doing it the right way and we change the script on how we interface with the carriers and do things differently, and I've got a bunch of ideas there that we're trying to run through agency council. They've got some really cool new people there that are doing some really unique things. So I think I'm very bullish on kind of where we go from here, but we're in a very bad space right now. But I do think it does get better. So I don't think this spreadsheet is that complicated. So somebody asked if we would share it. I will share it with you, and you guys can modify it and make it your own. I just have to kind of clean it up because there's like all of our referral partners are in here. Like there's just it's just everything is in this one document. We do have somebody on staff that has their MBA and they're a genius on Excel, but it's not that complicated of a form. You could probably go on Fiverr and have somebody to do it for you, and it would cost you like $50. So it's not something that you can't overcome and do. So I will send. So Trisha, I'm going to just give you that as a takeaway. We've got to kind of clear one out that make it kind of blank, and then we'll send it to you guys that you can utilize it and make it your own. All right. So I don't do video recorded proposals. Somebody asked about that. We just couldn't scale it. I don't know that I'll never do it. But we just never did. There's a bunch of companies out there that do it. I don't know if anyone has one that they love, but for me, I just couldn't scale it. I like to get people on the phone. I don't want people scared of the phone. I don't want people hiding behind email, and I want them to get on the phone and call them and talk to them. I can see utilizing it. I mean, you can utilize it through like Loom or any of those. There's a bunch of like BombBomb. There's all kinds of softwares where you can utilize it, where you just do a quick recording and you send it to them. I think it makes sense if you're trying to get, in touch with somebody and you can't, and it does have you show up a little bit differently, but that's not something we're currently using. Yeah, somebody said try BombBomb for proposal. We use it with every quote. So yeah, so there's a bunch of different softwares out there. Again, I don't like a lot of shiny objects, and I like when I say we're going to do something, we do it, and we have systems in place to kind of make sure it's happened. Because what happens a lot of times in agencies is we're like, oh yeah, we're going to try this Canopy Connect as an example, and then like 2 people are doing it, the other ones don't know what it is, and we overestimate how much time it takes to implement that new strategy, and your team just gets burnt out, and they'll be like, well, he's going to forget about this in 2 weeks, and then we're not going to do it anymore. I don't do that. So if we do something, we test it, and we were like, yeah, we're all in, and if we're all in, we're all in. And so when we did Canopy Connect, it was only like 2 months ago. Brandon told us about it. I had heard about it, and it's been a home run. It's been phenomenal. We're getting better data, and it basically gives us access to their deck pages and things. But then we went to each person and go, hey, are you using it? You haven't used it yet. Are you using it? And so we really made sure everyone was using it. And then once everyone was bought it, and then it was easy. We did the same thing with the CRM. And so I would just be careful with adding these shiny objects unless you know you're 100% going to follow through on them. All right. Anybody want to ask a verbal question that's not in the chat? You can. Who does our training? So We have a training system where we laid out 12 weeks of training. I think Brightway's got some really exciting things to share what they're working on there, and I'll let them do that. But there's really good stuff that I've been wanting them to do for a while that they're working on. So you're going to hear about that real soon. That's something that we've got to fix. That's the refreshing thing is right now, a lot of the things that I've brought up in the past, they are working on it, and it's not as fast as we probably want it. But they do at least understand what's needed and what they're doing. So on the training side, we have Shelby is responsible for our training. So we have a template for 12 weeks that we built out. And then we have a training channel in Teams. And then once a week on Monday before the week starts, she organizes the training and she assigns it and schedules it. I could talk for a whole nother hour on how we do our training. I'm going to share everything we do with Brightway, and hopefully they build it into what they're doing. Let's see. So, the training I think is really what really helps, that really helps us, because like the little problems or the things that are going wrong, they aren't happening that way because we spend so much time training and developing people. And then we do that monthly training every month that, just really touches and makes sure that we really are dialed into it. Because I would tell you, even 3 or 4 years ago, I'd be like, yeah, we're doing this and this, and I'd share this with everybody. And then you go ask 3 of my team members and they're like, yeah, we don't really do that. Like, Chris does it, but that's not true anymore. We all do it now. And that's something that I'm really proud of, is that when we say we're going to do something, that we do it. And we're not perfect, but that is kind of the goal, is that we do what we say we're going to do. And that is not an easy thing to execute.
Hey, Billy.
Yes.
Hey, Dave Linke here from Brightway.
Hey.
I just as a commercial, I don't want to steal Rick's thunder, but he's not on the call, so I guess I can, right?
Yeah.
Rick did just hire a head of learning and development for Brightway, a corporate, number one, to enhance our training and onboarding for new agents. But then also we feel there's a great opportunity there to expand the training into the agency world that already exists to support what you guys are doing. So I just wanted to throw that in as a piece of
it. Yeah. I didn't know if that was okay to share, but she is amazing. I'm going to tell you that, like, if you were to pick somebody out in the marketplace that could come in and do what we need done, that is the exact 100% perfect person. And she's amazing. And so I've known her for a long time, and had the conversation with her, introduced her to Rick, and I'm so glad that you guys pulled that over the finish line, because that is going to be a game changer for all of us. I've not been more excited about something that you guys are doing than that. That is something that is so needed, and it solves so many different problems down the line. It's a long-term fix, but it's a huge, huge win.
Yeah, great.
Awesome.
I'll take the heat on that one, Billy.
Yeah. Awesome. Anybody else? So we'll send a follow-up email. We'll have the recording of this call, and then I'll send you kind of the takeaways. I'll send you our post-bind checklist, and we'll send you a dumbed-down version of this Excel spreadsheet that's blank that you can make your own. I wish you the best of luck. And if you haven't signed up for Kickoff, please come. Please register. I'd like to spend some time with you guys, and let's help each other. So thank you guys so much, and y'all have a great one. See you later.